One of my guests is already seated, Honorable Ato Panford, who is the MP of Shama. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm well,
It's good to have you here.
Yes, I think it's good to come to Citi TV to see the whole crew and the presenters. Let me use this opportunity to say and wish you a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
I believe that the year is going to unfold with good blessings to all of us.
I believe it will.
Thanks.
How was your New Year?
Yes.
How has it been so far?
Quite reflective.
Okay.
And then I've been in the constituency with my constituents. Engaging them in the party. Delegates and etc. Trying to reflect on the years ahead. And then also what we've been able to do as a political party, and then people in government and public, positions. We also need to see how best, we position ourselves very well to deliver for the people. And then also let me just take this opportunity once again to say Afishapa to all our Shama constituents, my chiefs, our clergy, everybody in the constituency. We wish them very well for this year, 2020.
Fantastic. I just wanted your brief comments on this thing. It's not part of our conversation today, but just a brief comments on that. The daily graphic says here, we'll compile credible register. This is coming from the EC. I know there's been a lot of back and forth, from government and then also from minority about the register and so on. What are your comments and your feeling about where we are so far?
In fact, for me and as a party, I think we still stick by our position that we need to really do something about the whole register. From time we've been echoing this that the register is bloated and we need to clean it up. And then I think I believe we've had one or two judgments here and there to ensure that the EC try to do the needful. And I believe that it's very important that for us to have a very credible election, one of the most important tools that we need is our register. Okay. And it must be clean. It must be devoid of any unnecessary materials that will cause, certain. And at times, if you don't clean it up, your cost in even organizing the whole, election, gets, expensive, because you will have to try as much as possible to look at how you budget it up for, and at the end of the day, you realize that the real numbers are not what actually you're seeing. So for me, I still stand by that. No. Yeah. Let's give the EC the opportunity to clean it up for us. Get the rightful equipment and etc. And then we do the needful. Okay.
Some would argue, though, and I'm sure you probably heard it, that this is the same register that got Nanado elected. We used it for the district level elections and so on. Why then is there a need to do anything different?
You see, my brother, I think we need to be very, very firm on some of these things. We had to struggle through that election. Even though it was bloated, vigilance was one of the key things that we used in controlling some of the issues. But then, we cannot take this fundamental, dividend from the people of Ghana.
When you say struggle, you won quite handsomely.
Yeah,
so
the margins are great.
But
then, you see, you need to put very good vigilance issues in place. You needed to make sure that your polling stations, supervisions and that sort of things are perfect. And then we had to put a lot of, if you look at the numbers, you say it, and then the turnout and etc., it will tell you that we need to do something about the register. You see? And for me, one of the key things that we need to do is that, as we've kept that position, and if the opportunity is good for us to do something about it, we need to do something about our register, because that is a fundamental document or tool to have a very credible election. I believe that, we went through the 2016 elections, quite okay. But then, if we still, you see, there are materials or unwanted materials in there. Why wouldn't you want to clean it up? So I believe that we should take that step. And then the IT systems are very important for us to look at them, in getting the right, you
make some very fair points. Some, more skeptical people than myself would say that you're only looking for opportunities to to strengthen a stranglehold on leadership by manipulating the next election?
I think that is a very unfortunate statement, my brother.
That's what That's what people are suggesting.
No. You see, when you talk about the register, it is in the custody of a very credible institution. In fact, for me, I will not stand anywhere to, say any statements about the EC and the kind of work that they do. But then we need to equip them to be able to deliver properly for us. And then by doing that, all the requisite, tools, gadgets, IT systems, and everything that we need to. Yeah. And then for me, the basic thing that, all the ITs and everything will depend upon the data that you have to input onto the system. And the fundamental data is your register.
So Ghanaians should relax.
We should support the EC and then let the EC deliver and give us a very credible register so that we can start on a very clean platform.
All right. So our first topic is we want to talk about the performance of the MPP government and 72% manifesto achievement to be proven on January 27th. And this was the Minister of Information speaking. I'm going to read the story to you very briefly, and then we'll have a conversation.
Thank you.
Government to prove 72% manifesto achievement on January 27th. The government has set Monday, January 27, 2020, as the date to release comprehensive data on how it arrived at the 72% mark in the fulfillment of its 2016 campaign promises. Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, who made the announcement on Eyewitness News, was very optimistic that this will bring to rest the doubts that have been cast on the successes of the government's 3 years after assuming office. He mentioned, among other things, systems the government has put in place to track the promises that the MPP did not even make but has delivered on. On the 27th of January, we are going to outline in detail, first of all, what is in our manifesto which we have achieved, which constitute this 72% we speak about. We have a government tracking system that allows us to know which of our manifesto commitments we have fulfilled or are fulfilling. Beyond that, we also have Manifesto Plus, which deals with things that we did not even promise, but are things that have been occasioned because of the exigencies of the moments which we have had to deal with. And so on. And so on the 27th of January 2020, we have the opportunity to go into detail on that one and put out the whole database. Okay, so Manifesto and Manifesto Plus.
Great. Let me, you see, I cannot start this conversation without, thanking our president, His Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa, our leader, and then the vision that he had in putting our whole manifesto agenda together. It took detailed and an in-depth thinking about how to transform this nation. And then we had this social contract with the people of Ghana. And I believe that, we will stick to our words, which are written within this whole document. And that's going to be the yardstick that we're going to measure on our performance. We had this kind of social contract with the people of Ghana. We said we would do A, B, C, D. And then it's time to report. Yeah. It's time to tell our story, exactly where we are. And then I know that the Minister for Information, Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, is going to pick them one by one and then let all the people of Ghana know what we've been able to do about those manifesto, points that we declared for the people of Ghana. 72% seems very, very overly generous in patting yourselves on your back. You see, we don't just say or put anything out there in the public domain. We have the basis to say so. And so give us the benefit of the doubt on that day, and I believe that you're going to be there too. And then we'll pick them one after the other as per what we essentially within our whole manifesto document, and then just pose it out with what we've been able to do. And I believe that, you see, we wouldn't just sit and say that, oh, we've just done 72%.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
We will show and prove it up to the people of Ghana. And then let them know that, we came, we took their mandate, and then we deliver it for them.
Honorable Panford,
yes,
I want to read something here for you. This is still in the same story. But policy think tank Imani Africa has insisted that its assessment of the fulfillment of President Akufo-Addo's 2016 campaign promises remains at 48.7%. Imani Africa presented a scorecard on the performance of the MPP administration, but the government disagreed to that.
Well, you see, this is where we're coming from.
Okay.
They are saying that we are around 40% thereabout. And
48.
Yes, so 40% thereabout. On what basis? You've produced a scorecard. Now you tell us, just opposing it against the whole manifesto statements. The bullet points in thematic areas that we mentioned.
Yeah.
And I believe that is exactly what Honorable Kojo Nkrumah is going to do, and then tell the people of Ghana for us to know exactly what we've been able to do.
Okay. All right, let me introduce to you my next guest, who is Alhassan Suhuyini. He's no stranger to Breakfast Daily. Hello, good morning, Honorable. How are you doing?
Good morning, my brother. Hope you are well.
I'm very good.
Happy New Year
and
to
it's,
you.
it's good to have you here.
Always a pleasure.
I'm happy to start with you on the first beginnings, first month of Breakfast Daily,
right,
to have you on the show. Now, I'm sure you've read the ins and outs of the manifesto, what Imani scorecard says versus what the government is saying. The government is, I feel, maybe very generous to themselves, giving themselves 72%. Now, it could be, a good percentage point, but I wonder if 72 is not too high. Imani says it's closer to 48.7%. What is your honest take on all of this that's going on at the moment?
Well, let me first of all apologize for arriving late due to circumstances beyond my control, and say good morning to my honorable colleague, and good morning to our viewers, and a happy new year to everyone as well. I think it's very arrogant on the part of the president and the government to claim and to continue to insist, in the face of all that we know and feel, that they have achieved 72%. Even in your intro, as an ordinary Ghanaian, like we used to call, like we like to call each other, you have your reservations. You think it could have been lesser than 72. So it tells you clearly that I am not wrong when I say that the president and the government, for that matter, is demonstrating some level of arrogance, and not showing sensitivity to our plight and our suffering. There are many people who have lost their jobs. There are many people who had a lot of confidence in the president's fight against corruption, especially in the civil society organizations, who have clearly, stated many times how disappointed they are in the president's fight against corruption, will not be very happy with that show of arrogance in terms of how well they are rating themselves. And what is even more fascinating is the fact that this is actually a government made up of people who took Professor Mills, God bless his soul, to the cleaners for grading himself, because in their view, they didn't think that as somebody leading, as a president, he should even think about grading himself. It was not even about the mark he gave himself. It was about the thought, the idea to even grade himself, they thought was very arrogant. And you can check the records. They took him to the cleaners. But you see, the double standards and arrogance is that we can do it. And you have to accept it, whether it is so or not, because we are the NPP. You know, we can do it. and I think that many Ghanaians will find this very offensive. Because you see, we are living, you know, the life that this government has made unbearable. Everything is going up. Prices of everything, cost of living is, you know, off the roof. And education is a mess. Parents are confused about the so-called free SHS. They don't know what kind of education their children are getting. As we speak, people have prepared their children to go back to school. Some are receiving them. They don't know what is happening to education. And so when you, in the midst of all of that, don't even show some bit of humility.
Will you give the government above, what's the highest mark you will give the government in any area of governance? I
don't think anybody is going to take my grading seriously. So I don't even want to get into it. But I think that I will accept the verdict of the thousands of people who have lost their jobs. I'll accept the verdict of parents who are confused about the future of their children and are actually removing their kids from public schools and taking them to private schools. And you know, in this country before, parents took their children to private schools at the basic level, primary, JSS, and sought after public schools. Now, many parents are being advised to remove their children from the public school. When they complain about the problems, I mean, parents are talking to each other, saying, look, take the child to the private school. Now, these parents, their verdict is what we should be taking seriously. And, you know, the market women, the taxi drivers who are having to pay higher, you know, for fuel and spare parts, the Kayaye people, the trotro drivers, I accept their verdict, and their verdict is simple, that things are not going well, and that that times were better before. Times were better before.
You're painting a very doom and gloom picture.
What do you expect?
Let me just give you some of the scores that Imani Africa gave. Imani also scored the government 54.3% in the delivery of its commitments on the economy, 46.2% on governance, 46.4% on infrastructure. The government scores 39% and 43% on human capital development and social services, respectively, the report added.
You know, it's important to understand the process of grading that Imani used. Imani used what I will simplify as the ticking of box grading. So, for example, the government said they were going to construct dams to support irrigation. So, they have constructed dams. Imani will tick it and give it a score. But you and I do know that those are not dams, they are dugouts. And because of this harmattan that has not even gone into half of a season, the dams are drying up.
Okay.
So what is really the significance of the box that has been ticked? Imani didn't go into that. And in their report, they stated so, that they are simply not looking at the impact of what the government has done. They are doing an assessment of what they have. They said they will do, and they have done.
So is that not where the 72% is also coming from? Whether we say whether the impact is felt, you know, heavily or not, it's about impact. It's about fulfilling.
But
right?
governance should governance should be more. 72%. You see, but we shouldn't reduce governance to that. I mean, the impact of a policy is more important than just the policy itself. So we shouldn't reduce governance to that. But you see, even when you want to use that assessment again, you are found wanting because you had a vice president who in 100 days, you know, touted their achievements and scored themselves, I think he said 100 and something that achievements that they had made. Only recently, before the year ended, he reduced their achievements to I think about 40 something. I don't remember that, but he reduced it from 100. So it tells you that this is an inconsistent government. This is a sloganeering government. This is a government that is full of platitudes and dishonesty.
Let's take a quick break. Well, I'll let you come and then I'll come back to Honorable Panford. Let's take a short break. Please don't go anywhere. Keep your messages coming in. All right, welcome back. And Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, who is the MP for Tamale North, was making his submissions. Let him finish. Yes.
Yes. So as I was saying, I mean,
you're not impressed.
Yes. That inconsistency that I just pointed out to you, where you have you claim to have achieved over 100, promises made, only for that to be reduced to less than 80 in about 3 years, tells you how this government cannot be trusted. It thrives on sloganeerism, it thrives on platitudes, it thrives on propaganda. And I am consoled by the fact that the people of Ghana are living their reality. And I'm sure that given the opportunity, they will correct the mistake of a change that we had in 2016.
All right. Well, Honorable Panford,
yes,
you've heard your colleague, Honorable.
Yes, my friend.
He's not impressed with you guys at all.
My friend, Honorable Suhuyini, but quite very unfortunate, the kind of, choice of words in addressing the issues that we've been arrogant and etc. Look, let me tell my colleague brother here, and then the people of Ghana that we give them a social contract. And if you want to assess everything, you must have a fundamental basis on what you're trying to use in addressing the issue as a yardstick for it. And then we can all know that, what the Honorable Kojo Ponkroma is going to do, on the due date, he's going to be using our manifesto to tell the people of Ghana, this is the promise that we gave to them, and then these are the things that we've delivered. And then in the whole comprehensive aspect of it, marking up to that, we've been able to deliver the 72% of that. But then, say, comparing what, may his soul rest in peace, Honorable Prof. Mills, on what basis that was he scoring himself? You say from 0 to 10 will be around 7. On what basis? These are the key things that the people of Ghana want to know. And
so you're saying that he didn't give a basis, you are going to give a basis?
Yes, the basis is that we are building up and showing up from the promise that we gave the people of Ghana. And that is a manifesto which has been translated into policies which has been delivered. And trust me, if my brother would take the economic policy statement that we passed for 2020, look at the flip side, the back page of it. All the issues which relates to the manifesto are there.
So his point is also that it's one thing saying that we made a promise, we've delivered, and it's one thing having the delivery of the promise have tangible impact on Ghanaians, which is what governance is all about.
Exactly, and precisely so. That is what the minister is going to, show the people of Ghana. That these are the tangibles. We will not mention anything that has not been delivered. And then that's why we say that we are going to juxtapose it up from the manifesto statements up to what the deliverables are.
Okay.
And then that's what we're going to show to the people of Ghana. And let me say this, that look, we know, and then Ghanaians know where we are coming from. And then where we took the reins of governance from. And the lot of corrections and corrective measures that we put in place. And then being focused on our agenda in respect of what we've translated from our manifesto into the policies that we are driving out from the ministries.
All right.
And I will say that, look, we will mesmerize, my brother when it gets to that point. And I know that he will follow it up.
Prepare to be mesmerized.
If I could just make one point, and you see, I like the shifting of positions. Didn't Professor Mills come into office with a manifesto? Obviously he did. So he couldn't have been speaking out of context. He was speaking within the context of what he had delivered. But that's an aside. You see, I made the point about impact because, and rightly, you rightly said it, that is what governance is all about. And we have to understand that when you talk about the promise that was made, for example, in relation to free SHS, it is not as if the problems that we see today were not anticipated, especially by the ruling government at the time, the NDC. So, for example, the NDC said, look, if you do it, we agree with you that free SHS is important. But if you do it in the rash manner that you are saying you want to do it, you will have congestion and you will have so and so problems. So let's do it progressively. They said they had it all figured out. And remember, we even talked about the impact on investment in infrastructure, other equally important. They said they had it all figured out and the money was there. Now, so when you come and you even do a free SHS, but you do not address the problems that you were told will come up. For example, we never anticipated double track because they told us they had a way they will do it without having double track. Today you have double track that has confused not just parents but even teachers of these schools and leaving the education system a mess. And you see, I speak of education passionately because my first profession is teaching, and I love, you know, to impart knowledge. Now, everybody you speak to who has anything to do with our education setup, especially at the secondary school level, is worried. Now, it is not as if we didn't anticipate this. It was in our, you know, campaigns. We said, look, if you do it, you will have these problems. They said, no, we have it all figured out. We will not have those problems. So when you do it, and then those problems come up, and you start trying to manage those problems, you don't tell us that is an achievement. Because the achievement would have been, it's not as if you were not told they will come. You said you were told. And you said, no, it won't come. For example, when you have investments in health, investments in sanitation going down because the free SHS has taken all the money, it's not as if you were not told that will happen. But you said you had a way, for example, of reducing contract sums. You know, and that the previous government was inflating the contracts and that's why there was no money to do it. You reduce it. Today, you are awarding contracts twice the amounts of money that the previous government, for example, was reducing. So that is why it is important that the impact assessment of the box that has been ticked, you know, should inform, you know, the grading that we give, and not just the boxes.
My conclusion on this issue is going to be that, look, the tangibles are going to be shown.
All right.
As against,
we'll be waiting.
So that's what we're going to show the people.
Okay, super. Well, talking about the free SHS, the school feeding program, caterers storm the president's residence to demand unpaid funds. Let me read the story quickly to you. And this story is from My Joy Online. Angry school feeding caterers picket at Akufo-Addo's residence over unpaid arrears. All right. Angry caterers under the Ghana school feeding program Wednesday night besieged the residence of President Akufo-Addo in Nima over what they say is the refusal of the government to pay their arrears. The women who thronged the president's residence with their mattresses and pillows say they are willing to sleep over if assurances are not given to the effect of getting their concerns addressed. I brought my mattress and pillow. We are waiting for Morrison, this is Cynthia Morrison, in front of President Akufo-Addo's house. We are suffering, one caterer said. The women are blaming the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Mrs. Cynthia Mamle Morrison, for turning a deaf ear to their plight. Some of them are, also said they were being pressured by banks to service loans borrowed to pre-finance activities under the initiative. There's a quote here. How can I be using my money to cook for other children when my children are starving? My payment has been delayed for 1.5 years. They claim there was a mistake in the figures involving my payment, the visibly distraught woman said. Let me start with you on this one, Honorable.
A verdict on the earlier discussion we just had. And you know, it's interesting that if you go deep into this story, it will not be surprising to note that these people who gathered, and by the way, the very beautiful, transformed residence of the president.
Transformed?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a frontage that they've done some, you know. But that frontage
That's
is
transformation, isn't
well, the frontage is for Accra. It's part of Accra. It's not
the residence has
it's
been
not
as
his
it
house.
is, just as it is.
It's not his house. You are trying to take the thing somewhere. It's just bringing back. I've actually seen it, so I know what you're talking about. It's beautiful though, but it's the frontage, you know, and it's not his house.
It's his house.
No, it's not his house.
Why did they have to do that? Why did they have to move?
But it's part of Accra.
No, why did they have to move the people, pay them monies, and do that? Why?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm not holding brief for the president or the government, but
it's beautiful. I'm not saying anything. I don't get your defense. I'm just saying the transformed residence.
No, it's the residence of a sitting president. It's a security zone. Okay. You know that. So let's not make unnecessary wrangling.
Bring him back to book. Bring him back to book. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation on the whole subject.
If you look at all the different residences of all the different previous presidents,
do you know there was an issue?
All of them.
Do you know there was an?
Do
you know there was an issue with green grasses at the Flagstaff House before? Just planting of green grass.
I know. Yes, there was
at the Flagstaff House, the seat of the president, not the private residence of the president. Do you know there was an issue with it?
Let's move on.
Thank you. So I'm not the issue I bring up. I'm just saying it's a transform play. You see, sometimes the double standards X me in this country. I must be honest with you, because you see, this was about greening the seat of the government. It was an issue. So let's move on.
If you want to bring it up, we'll bring it on.
Let's talk about school feeding.
You know, so the caterers who gathered at the transformed residence of the president it's if you go into it critically, many of them are NPP. Women. So if they themselves are saying some of these things, you cannot fault Imani and others who are grading. I'll get there. You cannot fault Imani and others who are grading the president and his government less than 72%. And I say most of them, if you go into it, will be NPP women, because we all remember the scandal with the school feeding program, especially in the northern region, involving the then regional chairman, Bugre Nabu, and the then minister for gender, Otiko Jaba. You remember the things they said about each other and to the public, and how they were recruiting the women who were going to do the school feeding. You remember? So it was clear that it was for women organizers and others. They said it. I didn't say it. They said it. So that's why I'm saying that if you go into it, many of them are going to be NPP women, because they, as leaders of the party, told us the procedure they were using to pick the caterers in their fight. So if they themselves are telling you that they are all these, arrears, and their parents are suffering, their children are suffering, it speaks volumes of the kind of economy that we live in. Now, the issue of even how the children are fed is another matter. We have seen stories being done by media houses about even the quality of food and the schools that are supposed to benefit from this, and the corruption generally. Media people have highlighted how some of the meals are prepared, under very unhygienic conditions, and sometimes the quality and quantity of food that have been served. Social media is usually awash with some of these things. You see, it's not about NPP or NDC. It's about the future of these children who actually need these meals. And we have. This is not the first time caterers are demonstrating, and I think it should be the last. But it's not the first time caterers are demonstrating in terms of arrears being owed them. It's been experienced under the NDC government, and it's happening now. But you see, we must be making improvements. We must be making changes that will impact society better, instead of this I don't know how to describe it. But you see, we have a history. We have come from somewhere. First, this particular policy, when it was introduced, was funded by the Danish government. As a result of corruption that was associated with it under President Kufuor, the Danish government pulled out of, supporting the initiative when the NDC took over. So the NDC government had to find public funds, state funds, to support, the school feeding program, because we found it important and necessary. And the scope, in fact, Achimota School, for example, was under school feeding. When schools that were really in need and in the deprived communities were not benefiting from it, it tells you that it was simply introduced not to address a problem, but as a political thing. So it had to all be redesigned to actually target needy schools. Okay. And yes, this government has come. They have continued with the funding of the initiative. But one would have expected that they will improve it. Okay. But it went political again, picking women organizers and others and fighting over who gets the contract, and without focus on those that should be benefiting, from the initiative. And that for me is sad.
Ato Panford.
Yes, let me first of all empathize with a woman who have taken that concern upon themselves, responsibility in trying to help our children, and then the delay in the payment. I think we are all aware, my honorable member knows that, in Parliament, we approved budget for the ministry, and then in that relation, releases are supposed to be done. There were some few challenges here and there, but, for the woman to go to the president's residential, private residency there, is that because they know that the president has a listening ear, and then when they have the challenge, they believe that, okay, when they go to the president, they will be heard very well.
Do they have to pick it before they get
it's not appropriate.
Out?
It's not appropriate. But then you can just imagine the sentiments that these women have. And I just want to say that, it's going to be resolved. They should just exercise patience, because Parliament has approved the funds thereof for it. And then all what we need to look out for is a release. And the minister, Honorable Morrison, she's going to do the needful. All what we want to say is that we should exercise restraint, and then we'll resolve whatever it needs to be resolved. But then the twist and turns from my honorable brother is quite unfortunate. We all know how they left the school feeding program, and then the debt that was there that we need to inherit, and then make sure that he shouldn't forget about that. He said, when you are handed over with anything that is devastated, torn apart, and then that sort of thing, it takes a little time to put them back to track. And then we should not forget that this is about our children. And then all what I will say is that as a people, we need to look at what we need to do. And for me, the assurance that I'm going to give to these women is that, Parliament has approved the resources for that purpose. The releases are going to be done in this month, January. And then they should just exercise restraint. We are going to take care of all these sort of issues. When I get to my constituency, I have similar issues there as a member of Parliament. But because I'm a member of Parliament and I know exactly what goes on in the process in causing releases for funds to make sure that the program runs smoothly, all what I would say is that they should bear up with the government a little bit. The releases will be done and the payments will be done accordingly. There were challenges from the Auditor General's report, and my colleague brother knows that. There were certain issues, but for me, I will want to mention them right as it is from the report. That look, these things need to be addressed, and then for corruption, nobody will want to encourage corruption. If there are any malfeasance, that we will correct them and then make sure that the women who are investing their own funds into it to make sure that the program runs and then get their monies. And I believe this government is going to do that.
All right. Talking about people getting their monies, I'm going to start with you on this story. Men's Gold customers arrested for storming Namwan's residence, yet to be granted bail. Let me just quickly read portions of the story.
Very well. Very well.
Excuse me. Scores of customers of gold dealership firm Men's Gold Ghana Limited who were arrested for massing up at supposed Trasacco Estate residence of company's Chief Executive Officer Nana Apia Mensah, popularly known as Namwan, are yet to be granted bail. They were arrested for trespassing, unlawful entry, and causing injury to the security detail at the estate. Police officials from the Accra Regional Command made the arrest to maintain order at the place. The public relations officer of the Accra Regional Police Command, DSP Ifya Tenge, indicated that about 90 customers were arrested and will be released if they meet bail conditions. And I quote, "So far, we have 90 of them who have been properly charged, and also statements have been taken from all of them. About a few minutes ago, they were considered for bail, and each of them with one surety. So we're expecting that those who will meet the bail conditions will be granted bail." And she said this on Eyewitness News on Wednesday yesterday. All right, so Men's Gold is not, it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon, this challenge that we seem to have.
Yeah, you see, this Men's Gold issue needs to be looked at carefully, like we all, because we know that people's investments are in there. But then, you see, before you enter into any relationship with somebody, there are legal, structures that you follow. I'm sure that before you go and invest into whatever, you might have some documents to read, understand carefully. If there are any breaches thereof, which we find ourselves in this quagmire, I believe that, there are due processes, to protect the Constitution from making sure that rule of law exists in this nation. I wouldn't fault our police at all for going to ensure that there's peace and order at the place. But the leadership of these now formed into an association must also be able to educate their members very well in the rightful way of handling some of these issues. You see, you cannot rise up, move into a mob, and then go to any place and then start, to do anything. Yes, of course, the police is there also to ensure that peace and order, protection of people and property is also there.
Yeah.
And so the police have to go in to do what they need to do. But then, as if your Tinker says that about 90 of them have been charged, let us look at the charges thereof, and then the due judicial process will go on. But I believe that my candid advice is that, look, I know how it feels that people whose life savings have been put in investments and these sort of challenges are there, but then we have the law courts. Let us use the judicial arm in addressing some of these issues. And then I believe that with that, we will get, even though slow, but we will get a very fair, decisions, given to them in terms of their demands.
Right. Honorable Hassan, we are where we are now. And it looks like even though the banking sector crisis, monies were voted and made available to sort people out, it looks like this one fell outside, the purview of that intervention. What do they do?
Well, because you have mentioned it, I have been thinking a lot about what is happening in our financial sector. And I believe that if we had a very formal economy, we could have been said to be experiencing an economic crunch. But because our economy is not that formalized, we tend to underestimate the impact of the financial crisis that we are in as a country. And I say so because I have met countless number of people who are suffering quietly as a result of investments either gone bad or investments that they don't know what it's, with the status of. They no longer know whether they are going to get their money
or not.
A lot of people, either as a result of the micro loan scheme troubles or the banking troubles or the investment troubles. And then you have men's gold. A lot of people, high and low. So many teachers, nurses, soldiers, so many people. And people are just whispering. They're just talking. They don't know what is happening to their monies. In both the banking sector and in some of these investments that they put themselves in. That's why I'm saying that perhaps if we had a very well-structured formal economy, like what happened in the United States where they could declare a financial crunch, I believe we would have been there. So I sympathize with so many people out there who are going through so many things they are not even able to discuss, but are just holding on to hope. And that includes the, customers of Men's Gold. The assurances that they were given when Men's Gold was arrested in Dubai was that he will be brought back home. Yes, he will be brought back home. There will be trials, and the government will do whatever is possible to get him to account. And so he's back home.
You feel he's being shielded?
That's what the customers think.
No, we should not forget that, the whole issue is before the law courts.
Yes,
okay. We should not forget that very important fact.
Yes.
Issue is before the law courts.
I will not do what others did with Woyomi. I won't do that. Woyomi was before court. Woyomi was before court, but it didn't stop anybody from speculating and doing things. So I won't do that. So I agree. But you see, the customers think that he's been shouldered. And perhaps the government needs to give an update. We had the minister, or the deputy minister for the minister for Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Honorable Kwemka and others, going to Dubai, giving regular updates about how they were bringing him down, getting him tried, and facilitating payment, for these aggrieved customers. Since he returned, people think he's attending parties and he's having meetings with the powers that be, and they are not getting any updates. They are not getting any indication that they will have their monies. They are told to go and register at offices. They register. Now the man claims he has paid 200 people. They can't find among themselves. So who are the 200 people? I heard one of them speculating that perhaps the 200 people are the people protecting him. So they should bring the names out. No, one of the customers said it. So I'm saying that
this is a very sensitive issue, and I will be very careful.
That's what I'm saying. I will not do what others did with Woyomi, but it is as sensitive as it affects these these customers. And it's important that we discuss all aspects of the issue, at least, if for nothing at all, to give them hope that, we are concerned, and that I hope will prompt government to also take some, actions that are within their remit to give the assurance that, they care. Because every government has a social contract. And you see, at the beginning of this, when government was running away, I kept making the point that every government had that social responsibility. Yes, people may have been reckless, and that is why, the state will not allow you to take your own life.
All right. Okay.
You can be as one can choose to be as reckless as taking his own life, but the state will not allow you.
All right.
Because the state has a social contract to protect you. So there was no need for the government at the time to try running away from it and say people were greedy and went to put their money, don't put it. No. The government has a role to play.
Thank you.
They must be seen to be giving hope to the people who have been affected somehow.
Right.
If for nothing at all, if he has to be prosecuted, let him be prosecuted and jailed.
Right.
He has assets, it can be auctioned, and perhaps some of the customers paid.
Thank you. The issue is in court, so we'll leave it for
yes,
now.
There will be two-dimensional ways of it. Is it criminal?
No,
is it civil?
We've got
the
to
courts
go.
will deal with those issues.
Honorable, we have to go. All right.
Sure.
So just very, very briefly, you sent us some messages. I want to quickly read that. Will upon Nkrumah tell Ghanaians on 27th January that they have fulfilled the promise of one village, one dam, which has metamorphosized into one village, one pond, and now to one village, one dry dam. This is Kwaku in La Paz, and then also A.U. Farouk, one of your constituents,
yes.
Tamale North. He says, good morning to you, my MP, Honorable Suhuyini. As Ghanaian living under hardship, unemployment, loss of jobs, corruption, mismanagement of state properties, etc., the government cannot grade itself as 72%. Hashtag Breakfast Daily. Okay, thank you very much. We've been speaking with Honorable Ato Panford of Shama constituency, and also to Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini of Tamale North constituency.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed the show. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.